Welcome to the playoff edition of Upon Further Review. It's November 3rd already, hard to believe, or November 4th, I guess.
Yeah.
I lost track of my days. And November 3rd on the sheet, that's wrong, it's November 4th. But
that's it, you're done.
That's it, I'm done. I'm already off to a bad start here.
You've already blown
I'm Mike Kilroy, your host this week. On my left here is sports editor John Henrietto. On my right here is sports writer Derek Pida. As always, we have to thank our wonderful sponsors, Colin Tarker, Troy Allen, Butler Health Systems, and Penn United Technologies. Well, guys, kind of a rough week for our playoff teams in the first week of the season. We had a number of teams go in and run into buzzsaws. John, what was your impressions of kind of what happened to our teams here in the first week of the playoffs?
Well, a couple ones really stand out for me, and strange enough, both in losses though. North Catholic losing to South Park was a stunner. I think we were all shocked by that one. 32-27. North Catholic, of course, Big East Conference champion. They went perfect through their conference. Yeah. And then they play a low seed in South Park, sub 500 team, and they cough one up and lose. I mean that shocked me. I mean, I guess Zach Rocco had his usual solid game in terms of productivity. What do you have? 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns, 250
you
yards.
That game, yeah.
But
he also had a couple of picks, yeah. But and they how many turnovers?
4 turnovers. They had 2 costly fumbles. Well, one costly fumble. They fumbled the opening kickoff. It ended up not costing them, but they had a really costly fumble at the end of that game where they had a chance to put it away on 3rd and 2. It was a bad snap. Rocco couldn't grab it. Squirted away from them. South Park recovered, and that sent them on their way to their game-winning drive for the game-winning score.
So that loss definitely surprised me. And the other one in a losing effort was the gamesmanship that Siprock showed, or I don't know what word you would describe the run road up in here. Yeah, March is a good
They've
word.
had that all year.
They were down 20-3 on the road up at Harbor Creek, playing an undefeated team that's shut out 6 of 9 opponents, and they get within 20-17 and have the football.
Yeah.
And they end up losing 26-17. But even in defeat, I thought Siprock showed.
And again,
a lot
it was kind of the
game.
thing that had cost Siprock all year, costly turnovers. Another costly turnover at the end of that game. Actually, two turnovers at the end of that game kind of stalled that comeback for Siprock. But yeah, they had a great effort against. It's a really good Harbor Creek team.
Yeah, and one other thing, Karns City's narrow win over Keystone. I figured they'd win. I also figured it'd be a close game, and it was both of those things. I covered that game, and it was grass field. It got a little muddy there in the second half, as you guys might imagine, and that hurt Karns City's running game in the second half. But
because they got to a hot start, and then they kind of cooled.
They did. They fell behind actually, 22-21. Came back. Anthony Kamensky, a big 50-yard pass to Caden Shearer down to the 5-yard line. They punched it in from there, and that score stood up. So great win for Karns City, and we'll talk about them, I'm sure, later.
There's only a couple other games we haven't talked about yet. So Mars being one of them. I'm sure you have something to say about that one.
Well,
in Seneca Valley.
Yeah, I covered the Seneca Valley game. Mars just, they paid the price for that 2-game losing streak, because if they find a way to at least split that game or win both, which I thought they would win both. This is the regular season when they lost to Fox Chapel and Kiski. If they split those games or win both, they get a much better seed. They lost them both. They get a 12 seed to go down to Peters Township and face a really good team. And Teddy Ruffner, I heard this stat on the radio coming home last week. He ended up with like over 60 yards rushing, but against Peters Township's first team defense, 4 yards rushing. That's crazy. Yeah. And we know how good their line is. We know how good he is, but they just went up against an incredibly strong defense in Peters Township. But the game I covered, Seneca Valley, in the first game this year they played at Mount Lebanon. This was back in September. Seneca Valley was up 14-0 at halftime, and they ended up kind of melting down in the second half. They gave up 19 points in 6 plays. This past week, and that was in a loss. This past week, it was a little similar. With 8 minutes left in the third quarter, they're up 14-7. Mm-hmm. With 8 minutes left in the game, so you're basically talking a quarter span worth of time. Mount Lebanon scored 4 touchdowns, and that was it. They lost 35-14. So they went down to Mount Lebanon twice this year and struggled mightily in the second half, and both times they came out with losses, and this one ends their season.
Well, a big thing for me is I'm thinking I have to borrow your clown outfit because I actually picked Mars to beat Peters Township, and they lost by 41 points. So that doesn't deserve a clown nose.
I expect to see the clown outfit.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes when you go on a limb, it breaks. Okay. I went on a limb. I had a gut feeling. It was wrong, obviously. I thought Karns City would also blow out Keystone. It looked like they were on the way, but they ended up not blowing out Keystone.
Oh yeah,
I think on the dry field they might have done it.
In fact, when I was covering that game, I thought you in the first half because Karns City was blowing them out.
I thought it too.
They were blowing them out. 41 plays to 11 in the first half for Karns City.
So that's you guys kind of covered everything else, so we'll just leave it at there. Now we'll go to our first topic, and it's a hot button issue around the state. It's been a hot button issue since the state went from 4 classes to 6. John, I'll start with you. Do you think 6 classes have helped or hurt high school football in Pennsylvania?
Oh, it's hurting, and anyone who follows what I say about this shouldn't be surprised to hear me say that. No, I was against it from day one. I mean, it wasn't broke, and they tried to fix it. That's how I look at that whole thing. Now there's talk. I don't know how serious the talk is. There's talk that of the WPIAL talking about going back to 4 divisions, even if that means bowing out of the state playoffs. I mean, there is talk. A lot of schools are in favor of going back to 4 classes. It just doesn't work. The WPIAL is not structured for 6 classes. I mean, you could just look at 6A, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, 6A is ridiculous. 6A is the one class that really highlights how bad this plan actually is being implemented.
Yeah, you've got a handful of schools in 6A. You've got a lot of schools in 5A. You've got a ton of schools in 4A, 3A, and 2A. And then you got a few schools in 1A. It's just the balance isn't there. The system's not working. The extra travel involved is crazy for some of these schools. I mean, I'm personally all in favor of them going back to the 4 divisions. The state's not going to do it, but I'm kind of hoping that WPIAL does do it. But we'll wait and see on that one.
Derek, what are your thoughts on the 6 classes? Is there any positive to it? Do you see anything that has actually worked with 6 classes?
Well, I will say, I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with this. I am for, and I agree, I am for going back to 4 classes. I think by doing that, you bring back a lot of local rivalries across the state. But in our local area, it would mean Mars and Knock being in the same conference. They play each other, which I know we're all for that game being played every year. Also, if you go back to 4 classes, instead of having in the WPIAL 1 6A class with 9 teams, you'd have 2 conferences, quad A, at least 2. And I think that would make things more interesting. But I was interested to see what I could find out, maybe kind of do some research on the PIAA website and see what I could find out why the move to 6 classes was made. And I did come up with some numbers here. I think the move to 6 classes was largely fueled by the disparity in numbers in the largest schools in the state, and the vast majority of which are out east. This state has 95 6A football schools across Pennsylvania. 95. 33 of those are in District 1, the suburban Philly district. So that's
more than a third.
35% of the state's 6A schools are located outside of Philly. And when you think about it, no matter how many levels there are, 4 classes, 5, 6, there's a floor and a ceiling to every class except that highest class. There's no ceiling to that highest class. And if you went back to 4 classes, this is a pretty striking number that I found out. The largest school in District 1, North Penn, has 1,555 boys. The largest 5A school in that district is Lower Merion. They have 559 boys.
Wow.
Over 1,000, almost 1,000 boys less than North Penn. If you go back to 4 classes, those schools are in the same class. They're both quad A. Now, I think the move to 6 classes was largely made because of the highest classes, and again, most of those are out east. So that's why I think John brought up a good point. The WPIAL's thinking about pulling out, going back to 4 classes, and even if it means not participating in the state playoffs, because this move was largely done because of the number of big schools out east and the disparity in numbers in those schools. Because this side of the state has 15 of the 6A schools. Out east, 80. 80 on the
this
east.
This side of the state
15,
only has
15.
about 18% of the big schools in the whole state.
So
that's why when you see those brackets, you got teams from this side playing first round games out near Philadelphia because it's so much weighted.
Sure, and it even trickles down into other sports. That's why you see,
especially basketball.
You see the 4A bracket in soccer. and there's teams on the eastern side of the state in our side of the bracket. There used to be east-west. Now it's like it's all jumbled.
Yeah, you used to be able to call it Eastern Final, Western Final. Now you can't do that.
Can't do
six
that.
classes. Yeah, I agree with the great information, by the way, Derek. That was great research you did there.
The PIAA website is great. If you're without a date on a Saturday night, I'm telling you, delve into that.
Which I happened often to Derek before you got married.
Oh, yeah.
So he had lots of time to research that fact.
The other point to be made up here, the school the size of North Penn, they're going to be dominant, or could be dominant. I won't say will be, could be dominant because of their size, no matter how many classes there are, whether there's 6 classes, whether there's 4 classes, whether there's 8 classes. They could be dominant with a school that size anyway. So it's to put this whole system out of whack for a handful of giant schools.
You're going to 6 classes because you believe it benefits a small percentage of schools, while the rest of the state just has to deal with it. And I completely agree with John. I think
so. Basically, the PIAA needs to just throw Philadelphia.
Well, you know what? Another equation. You know what? Another reason why they did it, and they would never admit this, but neighboring states, West Virginia, Ohio, New York, some of these other states, they expanded classes. And in Pennsylvania, the PIAA pays attention to that sort of thing. They thought maybe it's time we should revamp too. That played. I'm not saying that was the reason why they did it, but that certainly played a factor in their move to go to 6 divisions.
Yeah. Whenever you make a move like this, there's going to be unintended consequences, and some of the unintended consequences are travel, and you still have imbalances. I don't think any system is going to correct those imbalances.
It's not going.
You're right. It's not going. I think 4 classes was working just fine. But I think like for a variety of reasons they decided to go to 6. A lot of people were against it, and we're seeing why, because it's just not working.
Well, you remember.
We're probably going to be stuck with it. But.
And you remember too when the PIAA first went to 6 divisions. So the WPIAL even back then considered bowing out then. They considered bowing out then and staying with 4.
Well, it's a tough decision for the WPIAL because
it is.
Because if you do go to 4 classes, you can't play none of your sanctioned sports can play in the state playoffs.
No, your season ends with the
and state playoffs are still
playoffs.
State playoffs are still important to a lot of these programs.
They are,
and we'll talk about that later because we got a number of teams in our county who have a chance to win state titles later and from the WPIAL. And if they went back to the normal classes, they wouldn't be able to go.
Right.
See, originally, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you know more about this, Derek. They were only going to do this in select sports, but then they started doing it in basketball, and I don't think I think I blindsided people. I don't think they realized they were going to do it in other sports. I think it was only supposed to be in a couple sports,
right.
But they ended up doing it across the board. They even went up classes in other sports like I believe soccer. They added a class. Yep. Volleyball. They added a couple of classes.
Soccer used to be 3 classes, now it's 4.
So
and I don't have the answer to this question. Maybe you guys do. So I'll pose the question. Could the WPIAL go back to 4 divisions in just football?
I think the WPIAL can do whatever they want.
I mean, because if they did that, then yeah, you wouldn't have the state championship football games for Western Pennsylvania, but you could play it in other schools.
But I don't know if the state will.
See, I don't know if they can do that or not.
I don't know if the state would recognize. Okay, WPIAL went down to 4 classes in football. I don't know if they would recognize if that would.
That's what I mean.
Kind of like when a college goes down a division in one sport. I don't know if they can play.
Notre Dame's independent just in football, and
that's true.
Conference and others.
So yeah, that's a question I don't know if we have the answer to, but I doubt the WPIAL is going to pull the trigger on that. I doubt the state's going to go down to 4 classes. This is all just kind of fun discussion, but I don't think anything's going to change. So I think
I think the WPIAL's having serious discussions on this issue. I mean, it may not change, but there is a possibility that it will.
I think you look at programs like Pine Richland, who, I mean, they're a player for the WPIAL championship every year. They're in the conversation.
The scuttlebutt is they're going down to 5A though.
They are going down to 5A, but I know Eric Kasparovich, and I've heard him talk on this subject. He wants the state playoffs because there's 4. If you go down to 4 classes, there's 4 teams that win a WPIAL title every year. Even now with 6, there's 6 teams that win a WPIAL title every year. He wants that state. He wants to see where his teams measure up against the other teams on the other side of the state. So I mean, I can see that point of view too, but. For the vast majority of WPIAL schools, I think 4A would be.
Another benefit of going on the 4 is you can have all 4 championship games at Heinz Field. So you don't have to exclude 2 classes from playing at Heinz Field arbitrarily like they have been doing.
And so another benefit, it would give us more time to get ready for basketball. Give us more time.
All right, well, that was a good discussion. Let's move on. Karns City has a 1 o'clock Saturday playoff game. We've had a number of 1 o'clock Saturday playoff games over the course of the years, and my question to you guys is, do you think 1 o'clock Saturday games kind of take a little bit of the excitement and a little bit of the oomph of a playoff game instead of playing on a Friday night or even a Saturday night? Because that nighttime atmosphere, I think, is one of those atmospheres that lends itself to excitement, and especially in a playoff game. 1 o'clock high school games, I don't know if you get the same excitement. Derek, what do you think about 1 o'clock or afternoon playoff games?
I don't mind the afternoon playoff game, and specifically looking at District 9, and that's what Karns City's playing, and as you said, a 1 o'clock game this Saturday against Ridgeway out in DuBois. With District 9, they really have no way around this. There's four fields in District 9 that have turf. Karns City, which, except for last year with that snowstorm, they hosted a championship game. They had to shovel the snow off the field.
Yeah.
But again, that game was originally scheduled for another place. They moved to Karns City out of desperation. But aside from that, an unusual circumstance like that, they're not going to host a neutral site playoff game in District 9. You're left with 3 fields that have turf in District 9 after that. Clarion University, Mansell Stadium out in DuBois, and Bradford. And on Friday night, Bradford's hosting one single-A semifinal. Clarion University is hosting the other single-A semifinal, and that leaves the field in DuBois, and you're not going to play a doubleheader on Friday in football. It's just not going to happen. No. But you can play a doubleheader if you have the games as they scheduled in 1 and 6 on Saturday. So in that district's case, District 9 is pretty much, there's no way around it. So, but, in districts that have more fields available and they can play on Friday night, I'm all for keeping games on Friday night. But District 9 has no choice.
Like District 10 they're on, they tend to play afternoon playoff games too, and they have a wealth of artificial turf fields to choose from. What are your thoughts on afternoon?
Well, I think I don't like it, but I understand it for travel concerns maybe. To me, that'd be the only reason. It's tough to play on a Friday night when one team or maybe both teams has a long way to go. I know they do that during regular season, so I don't see why they can't do it during the playoff season. But here's something that I witnessed only last Friday night. I saw Karns City play Keystone in a great, very highly entertaining, competitive playoff game, and my goodness, they played it on grass. They played on grass. I mean, I know this is stunning, this is shocking, but they played on natural grass. I never have understood and never will understand soccer. I can see it because soccer is radically different on turf compared to natural grass. But football is football. You can play football on grass, you can play it on turf. If the only reason they're playing at DuBois is for artificial turf, then I think it's ridiculous, but that's where we've gotten to with these high school sporting events.
Heinz Field has grass. They play WPIAL Champions there.
Why grass in a lot of high school?
Why can't you use a grass field? That's my question. Why can't you use a grass field?
It used to be. I mean, we only had a handful of turf fields anyway, and they played playoff games on grass, and everyone was happy with the results. And
like I said, I saw a great game last Friday on natural grass. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not against. I'm against 1 o'clock game. I think if at all possible, like Derek said, you need to play them on a Friday night. Keep the tradition of a Friday night game. Keep the everything the way the players are used to.
And not just that, but you guys, I'm sure, would agree with this. That the atmosphere in a high school day game is just not the same.
It's not the same.
It's just not the same.
I've covered a number of afternoon playoff games, and they've all kind of been just not the same edge, not the same excitement. So that's why I posed that question. And
call me old-fashioned, but Saturday afternoons of college football. that's what Saturday afternoons.
All right, let's move on to our over-unders. It's getting really, really hard to come up with these. I tried my best. We have Union AC Valley and their star quarterback, Luke Bowser, playing Friday night against Red Bank Valley. He's been a very solid performer for Union AC Valley this year. Good passing yards, getting everyone involved. So my first over-under is against Red Bank Valley. How many yards will Luke Bowser? Will he throw for more over under 145 and a half yards for Luke Bowser. Derek, how many do you think he goes over or under that?
Passing. They beat Red Bank a few weeks ago, and they rushed for 145 yards in that game, and they beat the Bulldogs 20-7. I think Union AC knows its best chance to win is to establish that running game. Bowser's a playmaker, no doubt, but he also has 16 interceptions this year. And if they want him to throw a lot of passes, I think that might play into Red Bank Valley's hands. I think they're going to establish the run first. He's going to throw his passes, but I don't think he's going to throw for a lot, because I think their running game is going to be good, and his passing is basically going to supplement that. So I'm going to go over 145, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
John, what do you think?
I'm sorry, did you say over or are you going under?
I'm going under.
I'm going under. Okay. Over under 145 and a half yards.
I agree with Derek. I think he's going to go under, and Derek raised a lot of points. That would play into Red Bank Valley's hands if Union ACV has to throw a lot. This team, Red Bank Valley's got 33 quarterback sacks. Their two defensive ends are in double figures in terms of sacks. Both of them are. They also have, I think, 15 or 16 picks. So this team wants you to throw the football. And as Derek pointed out, when the Falcon Knights beat them in the regular season, they beat them with a strong running game. And that running game for the Falcon Knights has just grown as the season gone on. You guys remember, when the season started, they can run the ball at all. Now they're extremely balanced on offense, and I think that the running game will help them Friday. I don't think they're going to throw enough for him to throw 145 yards.
See, the points two guys just made is why he's going to go over 145 and a half, because the running game did hurt Red Bank the first time, so they're going to commit to stopping that run and making Bowser pass against their strength. So he's going to throw a lot more, he's going to complete a lot more passes, and he's going to throw for over 145 and a half points, or 145 and a half yards. So that's my prediction. It's going to be because of what the game has dictated to Union AC Valley. They're going to make them throw.
I hope you're wrong.
Because they want him. They want to play to their strength. Their strength is pass defense. So they're going to try to stop that run and make them have to throw into their weakness. It's the only way they have a chance to win.
I hope you're wrong, though, because if Luke Bowser throws for over 145, to me that means he has to throw because they're behind. So
I don't think it's going to be because they have to. I think that's going to be because what Red Bank Valley is going to be giving them, and he's shown the capability with those receivers that he has to be successful in the passing game against anybody. He's had some good passing games against some strong competition this year. So
I don't know what you're saying.
I think
that's respectfully disagree.
I respect your opinion.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the second over-under. Karns City's running game has kind of been powering them this year, guys, and they powered them again last week. Is it going to power them again against Ridgeway? Do you think they go over/under 185 and a half yards rushing, John?
I say over because that's their game. It won't necessarily spell victory. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I think they go over 185 simply because Karns City runs the football. That's what they do.
Derek, do you think they get that running game going and get more than 185 and a half yards rushing?
It's a very good over/under because in the first meeting, which Karns City lost by 6 points, they ran for 197. So that's in the same general neighborhood there. I'm actually going to go under here. Ridgeway is really good, and I think they're going to make the adjustments. They're going to obviously be geared to stop the run. Anthony Kamensky's over 1,000 yards this year. His strength, the quarterback, is obviously running the ball, not passing the ball. I think Ridgeway's going to make the adjustments and find a way to hold Karns City. They'll get their yards. They'll definitely be over 100 as a team. There's no doubt about that, but I don't think they get to 185.
Yeah, kind of the same reasons that I posed for the Bowser going over is why I think Karns City's going to go under 185 and a half yards rushing, because I think Ridgeway's going to make them throw the ball a little bit more than they want. Plus, I think Karns City's going to be behind in this game, and they might have to throw. So I think they go under. Not a whole lot under, because Karns City's going to run the ball. There's no two ways about it. They're going to try to establish that run. They're going to run, but they're going to have to throw to beat this team. And I think they're going to find that out early, that Ridgeway is going to try to take that part of the game away. So Anthony Kamensky's going to have to hit some passes. I think he is capable of doing it, but it's going to cost them some yards in the running game, so I think they go under.
See, to keep in mind, Karns City could run for 200 yards and would be disappointed because they're averaging 300 yards a game on the ground. So they could go over that over under and still not be happy about it. So That could happen.
That's a very good point. That could happen as well.
Yeah.
All right, we only have 2 games this week to go through,
Yeah.
so the prediction segment is going to be a little short. First of all, how did we do last week? We didn't do very well.
Scoop and I both went 4-1.
Okay, preface that. Scoop and you did very well.
Right.
You and John both went 3-2.
That's not good.
That's not good.
So now the updated standings, I got them somewhere here in my papers. There we are. John and I are tied for the lead with an 81-27 record.
I'm tied with Scoop now.
And you're tied with Scoop. You guys are both 80-28. So there's only one game separating everybody. So
That's what you want.
Comes down to the wire.
All right, first game, we kind of talked a little bit about Karns City Ridgeway just a minute ago. Let's talk about them some more, John. Karns City at Ridgeway. Ridgeway beat them the first time. Does Karns City get revenge for that first loss?
I'd love to say that they will, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Simply because Ridgeway is, as you guys, this is a loaded team. I mean, they really are. They
number 1 seed.
Their defense, other than their lost to Cambridge all the way back in week 1, I guess, if you count the week 0 game. All the way back to that, they haven't given up more than 14 points in any game since then, which is pretty impressive. Then you add to that Paul Gresco, their quarterback's thrown for 1,500 yards and has only been picked off 4 times the entire year. That's impressive. They got a backfield that's combined for 2,300 yards rushing and 39 touchdowns with no one player rushing for even 600 yards. That's impressive. And they have 4 receivers with at least, they have one standout receiver in Austin Green, and their defense is incredibly balanced, including linebackers about over 100 tackles. This is a loaded team. Karns City, much like last time, they'll hang in, they'll give them a fight, but I'm picking Ridgeway 28-17.
I was going to say, so what are you trying to say, John?
I'm saying they are pretty good. They are, but Karns City's on a roll themselves. I'm not trying to discount what they've done lately. They'll give them a fight, but 28-17, that's my score.
Karns City played them tough the first time, Derek. So it wasn't that big of a point spread there. I believe it was 19-12,
19-13.
So that's it's a 1-score game.
Yeah.
How do you see this one playing out?
Well, I'll say this: last year, Ridgeway ended up winning the District 9 AA title last year, but they got a bye into the semifinal, just like this year. And in the semifinal at DuBois, just like this week's game is going to be, they played Montauk, and entering the 4th quarter, Montauk was up 7-0 in that game. Ridgeway didn't turn things around. They didn't start moving the ball really well. They didn't score until the 4th quarter. They ended up beating Montauk 15-7. If Ridgeway comes out rusty in this game, no matter for how long, Karns City has to take advantage. Yeah. Montauk was only able to build a 7-0 lead last year through 3 quarters. Karns City has to take advantage of Ridgeway's rust, if there is any. That said, I think John brought up the quarterback, Paul Gresco, over 1,500 yards passing. I think Ridgeway's balance on offense. They can run the ball. They run the ball basically as well as, almost as well as Karns City, but they also pass the ball really well, and I think that balance on offense is going to be the difference. I see another tight game, but I think Ridgeway wins by 6 points, again, 20-14.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good game. I think Karns City is going to hang in there with Ridgeway, but again, I think it's going to be another one of those slobber knockers. We haven't used that term yet. It's going to be another 19-13-ish kind of game. I think it's going to go kind of back and forth. But I think Ridgeway's defense is going to do the job. I see Ridgeway winning. I'm going to go 15-13 Ridgeway. Yeah, it's going to be a tight one.
See, even when Karns City controls play like they did in the first half at Keystone last week, they still only build a lead so high because they have a grinded offense.
Yeah, they don't have
they grind and grind.
They don't have
that
breakaway guy.
They don't really. And Caden Shear will get loose for the occasional long pass, which set up the winning score last week. But a prime example, Karns City absolutely dominated Keystone for 2 quarters last week, and the halftime score was 21-6.
Yeah.
The game wasn't over, and Keystone proved that in the second half. So even to Derek's point, if Ridgeway comes out rusty, Karns City, I think, is only going to build a lead so big.
Yeah, Karns City is kind of a 4 yards in the cloud of dust. On turf, it's a 4 yards in a cloud of rubber pellets. Offense. So that's kind of what Karns City is. They don't have the breakaway 100
That's just not who they are.
Good guy this year. So let's move on to our second of our two games, Union AC Valley versus Red Bank at Clarion University on Friday night. Derek, I think you have a little bit of inside scoop here on this game that might affect the outcome.
This is from District 9's Adam Schefter, Chris Rossetti. The guy knows everything.
He has a 10-cent cell phone.
I knew that Red Bank Valley's starting quarterback, Gunnar Maggiontini's been out for a while, but I didn't know if he was completely done for the season. I got Chris Rossetti to confirm that for me this morning via text that he is definitely out. He's done for the year, and that puts a freshman named Cam Wagner in a quarterback. And Cam played in the first matchup with Union AC a few weeks ago. He had an okay game. He threw 87 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But as far as I know, Union AC is entering this game pretty much at least as healthy as they can expect to be this late in the season. And you're asking a freshman quarterback for Red Bank to take over for a kid. Gunnar Maggiontini ran the ball well. He passed the ball well. Now you're putting all that weight on the shoulders of a freshman. Union AC won the first battle a few weeks ago, 28-7, and I see him winning here again and moving on to the District 9 championship game. How about that? Union AC. I have them beating the Bulldogs 27-16, and I'll be there Friday to cover.
Yeah, Red Bank Valley without its starting quarterback, arguably one of their best players.
Oh, yeah.
Freshman filling in for him. That's not a very good recipe for success for a team who's maybe already going up against a superior squad.
Well, it's not, but this freshman quarterback hadn't been playing, as Derek pointed out, he hadn't been playing bad, though. I mean, I don't know, clearly you have a drop-off there, but I don't know if it's going to be a fatal drop-off, if it's going to be the determining factor why they lose. I think East Valley wins this game. I think they would have won. But I do think Red Bank's going to give them a tougher battle this time. I think they'll make some adjustments. Anytime you're a good team, which Red Bank is, and you lose by 3 touchdowns with an opponent, then you get a second shot at them. You're going to make adjustments, probably make it a closer game. I can see that happening. I also don't like the Luke Bowser passing matchup against his defense. We touched on it earlier. But Union AC Valley's running game will make the difference. They'll grind out a couple. I have the Falcon Knights winning, but in a tight one, 21-15.
Yeah, Union AC Valley, their bandwagon is going to keep on trucking down the road. They're going to be playing for a District 9 championship next week. They're going to beat Red Bank Valley. It is going to be a little bit closer, but not much closer. Union AC Valley, every time they win, it seems like they give up 7. They're going to give up 7 again. They're going to win 22-7 this time over Red Bank Valley.
So our standings aren't going to change, right? Didn't we go
across the board? I think we both picked the same. Yeah.
So standings won't change us.
So unless I change my Karns City pick to Karns City, I won't be able to catch you guys.
Well, if Union AC Valley wins, there's another game to pick next week. So.
I mean, yeah, true.
There's hope for you.
There's still hope for you. In the perfect world, Scoop and the 3 of us would all finish with the same record. That would be pretty cool.
You know what? And we should also point out, even though we picked the other way, it's certainly not a possibility that Karns City pulls an upset.
Certainly not. That's reflected in the scores.
Yeah, right.
We didn't pick a blowout by any means for Ridgeway, and it won't be a blowout by any means, I don't think. All right, now let's move to our "And What About" segment. Man, guys, we got 4 WPIAL champions, and pretty impressive WPIAL champions at that. North Catholic girls won their first WPIAL title in girls soccer. Mars won 4-0 in a WPIAL championship game. You never see a score like that in a WPIAL championship game in soccer. And of course, our 2 volleyball powerhouses, Knock and Freeport, both won. Freeport coming back from 2-0 with 2 straight matches. Mm-hmm. They did it again against North Catholic. It was a great team in its own right, and I think they're going to make some noise in the state playoffs. So, guys, let's start with you, John. What about these 4 WPIAL teams? 4 WPIAL championships, and what do you think's in store for them in the state playoffs?
I'll tell you what. First off, I think Derek Piter's column, which I've already read in Tuesdays at Butler, you'll check it out because Derek does a great job of chronicling what was unique about these 4 championship wins. Nice column by you. So check that column out for sure if you have a chance to in Tuesday's Eagle. But I'm amazed. I've been around here for 22 years. Unless my memory is leaving me here, I can't remember 4 WPIAL championships in one day from my local school. It's pretty incredible stuff. I mean, it's and again, I'll let Derek talk about what he wrote in his column a little bit, but all four of these titles very, very unique. I'm particularly impressed with Knock volleyball. I mean, not having your 2 stars for a good bit of the playoffs. They still don't have one of their stars back yet.
Yeah, they got Hannah Rowe. They got Hannah Rowe back.
Yeah, but Kennedy Christie's still
and she was dominant in the.
To pull that out the way they did, Freeport coming back from 2-0 down 2-0, not once but twice in both the semis and the finals.
And against another undefeated team in North Catholic, they did it.
Yeah, I can't say enough for these 4 programs and what they've accomplished and what they still may accomplish with the state playoffs starting.
Yeah, I think that what really sticks out for me is Freeport coming back from 2-0 twice, but I think to me that just shows just how good a coach Tom Phillips is. He made adjustments in both of those matches that turned those matches around and got them wins. He just seems to know the right buttons to push, knows the right adjustments to make. And that's what's impressive. And Mark, I'm sure you can talk about what was in your column, but that 4-0 win by Mars, that really raised my eyebrow.
The Mars, a lot of players on that team played the last 2 years when Mars lost 1 year to Moon in 2017 in the WPIAL Championship game, and then last year they lost to Oakland Catholic. So for a program that has such high standards as Mars, to especially for the seniors, this is it for them. This is their last season. To go out with at least no less than the state WPIAL Championship, and who knows what they're going to do in the state playoffs. I mean, it was a big deal for them. Taylor Hamlet's part of that group. She's a great player. Blair Gerlach. I mean, the standard that is held down at Mars for girls soccer is just incredible. And they added another WPIAL Championship to their hardware. North Catholic girls soccer was 5-14 just 3 years ago. 3 years ago, 5-14. Now they win their first WPIAL Championship, so kudos to them. I covered the WPIAL Championship volleyball doubleheader at Fox Chapel, and as you guys said, Hannah Rowe did come back. She actually came back for a semifinal match. I didn't cover that, but I covered the final against Thomas Jefferson. She ended up with 20 kills. You knew she was going to make a difference early. She had 7 kills in the first set, and you knew she was going to be a force to be reckoned with. But I did point out in my column that she doesn't have a chance to come back and play that well in the championship match if her teammates don't win those first 2 rounds without her. And Kennedy Christie's also injured. She's still out for Knock, and they don't know if they're going to be getting her back for the state playoffs. But it was just a true team effort for Knock to get to the semifinals when Rowe came back without her and Christie. It shows that's a true team because those 2 players are high. They're all state players, both of them. And you're without those 2 girls for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and they still found a way to pull it out. Yeah. Great story. And Freeport, as John mentioned, down 0-2 to Avonworth in the semifinals, and they had a dynamite outside hitter for her name was Gavin. Last name was Gavin. I can't remember her first name. McKenna Gavin. She had 29 kills in that match. Tom Phillips admitted to me that he went to a formation that he had never tried before after falling down 0-2. He said, I went with my gut, I took a chance, and not only did he go to that formation, but he obviously has to have the athletes to pull it off, and he did. That gets him to the final where they play North Catholic. They're down 0-2 again, defending champion North Catholic. Undefeated North Catholic, and they find a way to win 3 straight again. So, first WPIAL title for Freeport since 2016. I do want to mention this, though. In 2017, Freeport lost in the WPIAL final, ended up winning the state title. So watch out for North Catholic. Yeah. North Catholic volleyball can make.
Well, they're going to have to get past Freeport again, and Freeport seems to have their number. They beat them last year in the state playoffs. Freeport did, and that was a pretty big upset. This year, I don't know if you call that an upset. They were both undefeated going into that.
They were both undefeated.
So I think the way Freeport won, though, was jaw dropping.
I can't get over the way. I mean, Freeport's girls semifinals, you're down 0-2 and you come back to win. Okay, great comeback. That's a great story right there. To do it a second time in the WPIAL finals against an undefeated opponent, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, that was just incredible. The comebacks.
And we talked about Knock volleyball a little bit. I think this just shows how prepared this team is. When you lose your 2 stars, they basically had to come up with 4 players to fill those 2 spots because Kennedy Christie and Hannah Rowe played all the way around. Yeah. So they had to not only come up with replacements for them at the net, they had to come up with replacements for them in the back. And they were able to do it with 4 girls who stepped up. They hadn't played a whole lot this year. They stepped up, did an amazing job. got them to the final and they won. I think this out of the three straight they've won. I think if you talk to Diane Geist or any of the players, they'd probably say this is the most satisfying because of the way they had to do it.
No, there's no question. In fact, it was kind of funny when Diane Geist, not coach, phoned in the semifinals. She went down her list. She couldn't think of one player's last name because the girl hadn't been much of a factor the entire year. She was forced into the lineup due to these injuries, and she came up big for them. They're a great story too.
They're a great story. I wish all four of these teams.
Yeah.
Don't want to leave out Karns City girls. They won their district.
Absolutely.
Title. Good luck to them too going forward. Good luck to all of our teams that are in the state playoffs. We have a number of them. Football, other sports.
Karns City girls soccer in the state playoffs.
Yes, what I just said. Karns City, good luck to them. I think it's going to be a fun state playoffs. We might be busy in Hershey and elsewhere.
Cumberland Valley High School.
Yeah. Cumberland Valley High School in a couple of weeks, and we hope we are. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.